You can cheat on someone without ever touching them. No kiss, no secret hotel room, no late night text that crosses a line you'd be ashamed to show your partner. Just a friendship, a completely platonic, totally innocent friendship. And yet somehow it can end relationships faster than an actual affair. Today we're asking the question almost nobody wants to answer honestly. Is platonic love really just cheating wearing a disguise? And the answer is going to make you rethink every close friendship you've ever called just platonic. Welcome back to Cipher, where we take the psychology nobody wants to admit is true and explain exactly why it's happening inside your head. Here's the setup. Two people, no physical contact, no romantic confession, just deep conversations, inside jokes, the kind of emotional closeness where one person becomes the first call when something good or bad happens. Psychologists have a name for this. It's not affair. It's not friendship either. It sits in a gray zone called an emotional affair, and research on infidelity suggests it might do more damage to a relationship than a one-night physical slip ever could. So let's break down why your brain doesn't actually care about the label platonic, why emotional intimacy can be more dangerous than physical intimacy, and where the real line is. Let's start with the psychologist who basically invented this concept. Shirley Glass spent decades studying infidelity, and she found something that surprised even her own field. The deepest threat to a relationship usually isn't sex. It's secrecy plus emotional intimacy with someone outside the relationship. Think about what actually makes a romantic relationship feel romantic. It's not just touch, it's being known. It's someone remembering the small detail you mentioned once. It's feeling like you don't have to explain yourself. It's being someone's first call. Now here's the uncomfortable part. None of that requires romance. None of it requires attraction. A close platonic friend can do every single one of those things. And when they do, your brain treats that bond using the exact same emotional circuitry it uses for romantic attachment. This connects to attachment theory, one of the most well-supported frameworks in psychology. Humans form what's called an attachment hierarchy, basically a ranked list of who we turn to for comfort and security. Your partner is supposed to sit at the top, but emotional affairs work by quietly moving someone else up that ranking, one shared secret and one late-night conversation at a time. So the question isn't, did anything physical happen? The question is, who's actually at the top of your attachment hierarchy right now? And a lot of people lying to themselves about being just friends already know the answer. But here's where it gets even messier, because there's a specific psychological mechanism that makes emotional affairs almost invisible while they're happening. It's the same mechanism behind every secret you've ever justified to yourself. And once you understand it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. The mechanism is called compartmentalization, and it's the brain's way of keeping two contradictory truths from colliding. Here's how it works in practice. Someone in a committed relationship starts texting a friend more. At first it's innocent, work stress, a funny meme, a vent session. But slowly the conversations shift. They start sharing things they haven't told their partner. They start feeling a flutter of excitement checking their phone. And critically, they start keeping the relationship a little quieter than it used to be. That last part is the tell. Glass's research found that secrecy is actually the core ingredient of an emotional affair, more than attraction, more than any specific conversation. The moment you'd feel uncomfortable if your partner read every message, you've crossed from friendship into something else, even if you haven't admitted it to yourself yet. And the brain protects this comfortably through compartmentalization. It builds a wall between loyal partner and person texting someone else at midnight, so the two identities never have to look at each other directly. You get to keep believing you're faithful because you've never let yourself examine the full picture at once. This is also why people in emotional affairs are often genuinely shocked when their partner's hurt. They'll say, but we never even held hands. And they mean it, because in their compartmentalized mind, that really was the whole defense. Now, here's the part that flips most people's intuition upside down. When researchers ask people what they'd find more painful, a one-time physical hookup with no feelings involved, or an ongoing emotional bond with no physical contact, a large portion choose the emotional bond as more threatening. And there's a real psychological reason for that, not just jealousy. Physical infidelity is usually a single event. It happened, it's over, and even though it's painful, the brain can file it as a discrete betrayal. An emotional affair is different. It's ongoing. It's a relationship that's actively competing with yours right now in real time, often happening in plain sight disguised as friendship. There's also the comparison problem. Evolutionary psychologists have long noted that men and women tend to report different jealousy triggers on average, with physical infidelity often provoking sharper distress tied to paternity concerns, and emotional infidelity provoking sharper distress tied to resource and commitment loss. But more recent research suggests this gap is smaller and more context-dependent than early studies claimed, and both types of betrayal register as genuine threats to the relationship regardless of gender. What both groups agree on is this: an emotional affair signals that your partner has built a parallel, intimate life that excludes you. And exclusion, not just betrayal, is what the nervous system reacts to most violently. So if emotional affairs are this dangerous, why does almost nobody recognize them while they're happening? The answer involves a psychological blind spot that protects cheaters and faithful partners alike. And honestly, you've probably fallen into it yourself without realizing. So where's the actual line? Because clearly, no physical contact isn't a useful definition anymore. Relationship researchers generally point to a few markers that separate friendship from an emotional affair. First, secrecy. Are you hiding the frequency or content of the relationship from your partner? Second, emotional primacy. Is this person now your first instinct to share good news or process bad news ahead of your partner? Third, comparison. Are you measuring your relationship against this friendship and finding your relationship lacking? Fourth, intent. Would you feel comfortable if your partner read every message unedited? Notice none of these require romantic feelings or attraction. A completely platonic friendship can fail all four tests and still be doing real damage. Meanwhile, a friendship with someone you find genuinely attractive can pass all four tests and be completely healthy, because attraction without secrecy and without displacing your partner isn't betrayal. It's just being human around other humans. This reframes the entire debate. The danger was never feelings versus no feelings. The danger is displacement and secrecy. Platonic love isn't automatically cheating, but platonic love used as a hiding place for emotional needs your partner should be meeting? That's a different thing wearing a polite name. So here's the question that actually matters, and it's more uncomfortable than, is this cheating? Is there a conversation happening in your life right now that you quietly close out of if your partner walked into the room? Because that single gut reaction will tell you more about where you actually stand than any definition of platonic ever could. Relationships don't usually collapse from one dramatic betrayal. They erode slowly, one redirected conversation at a time, until one day someone looks up and realizes they've built an entire emotional life somewhere else without ever calling it cheating. If this made you rethink a friendship in your own life, you're not alone, and that discomfort is actually useful information. If you want to understand the psychology behind why we lie to ourselves about the people we let in close, hit subscribe. Cipher breaks down exactly how your mind protects its own bad decisions every single week. Drop a comment. Where do you personally think the real line is? I read every single one,